ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Dario from Next Pharma Summit. It's a great pleasure and honor to organize another webinar from the next series. We are having some very interesting topic today with the title Preparing Reps for Post-Covid-19 Re-emergence. I'm very glad to welcome some pretty amazing speakers and panelists today. From my left, we have Florent, Edouard, Senior Vice President, Global Head of Commercial Excellence from Grünenthal. Hello, Florent.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
We have Bartosz Bednarz from Ipsen, also Senior Vice President of Commercial Excellence. Hello, Bartosz. How are you?
Hey, Dario. Very good to hear you. Sorry, you will not be seeing me today, and I'm not in charge of commercial excellence. I'm in charge of global marketing and strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Alessandro Milli from Zambon, Global Commercial Excellence. Hello, Alessandro. Ciao.
Ciao, Dario. Hello, everybody.
And we have from Australia, Marcus West. I suppose it's already actually quite night, close to midnight, right? The founder and CEO of 60 Seconds. Hello, Marcus. How are you? Marcus, can you hear us? Okay. So we all know the topic. It's a very hot, very interesting topic related to COVID-19. I would say that, frankly speaking, the whole thing with COVID-19 is really already very frustrating, and everything what you open these days is related to COVID-19, from the news, from the even shopping carts, etc. So we are really bummed with all kinds of effects of COVID-19, and of course our business, so the pharma industry, has been also affected a lot with that. When this whole crisis started, one of the most popular dogma was, of course, to flatten the curve. And I would say that whole Europe already has been quite successful in this regard, in this part. And in recent days, recent weeks, we are finding some new flattening curve paradigm, which is to flatten the curve of unemployment, of bankruptcy, even unfortunately of suicide, so of different kinds of very negative social and demographic impacts. And that's why I would say coaching and leadership in pharma will be crucial and key to prepare our reps for the upcoming period of time. So coaching is a must, and of course, I would say that we are really in a very tripping point where leadership and coaching will be especially important and crucial to showcase. Also, some additional very interesting data coming from McKinsey, recently published data from a survey from April this year, where we see that the physicians still expect to see a significant increase in use of digital channels after the COVID-19 crisis. We see that HCPs are, of course, very keen to stay on this digital platform. You get the data coming from video conferencing, remote calls, and some other platforms. So this is, of course, very important learning for us in the pharma industry to know and to remain in digital and virtual channel also after this whole crisis. And additionally, one very interesting insight coming from Sinus Health, their main online channels used by doctors in the last few months have been email, online study modules, pharma company websites, online webinars, of course, and remote web access to different kinds of digital and virtual conferences. These have been different channels used by HCPs in the recent period, and I would say that this is also something which will remain in the future after this crisis ends, but most probably also as a hybrid model between face-to-face and a digital channel. So this was a short introduction. And now we can start with the first question to our panelists. Of course, we can start with Florent. I would say that he can give us some very interesting insights. And the question is, how did you prepare your teams in Asia and Europe who already started HCP visits? Actually, what is your leadership playbook for the new circumstances and for the new normal in Ireland? Florent, would you like to start?
Well, yeah, sure, I can. So I think, you know, the first thing is we have all to admit that we were not ready. Like no one was ready for something like that. When, you know, mid-February, for the first time, we started to hear from our Italian affiliate that there may be a lockdown in some of the regions of Italy. we started to think, maybe there is something that is going to become broad, because so far it was limited to China. We are not present in China, so we thought, okay, that's for the others, not for us. Now, moving on to that, what we have rapidly realized is you cannot drive everything from the center. You need to build on the skills and the talent of your local teams. And one of the things we have done, for instance, is to collect from across all the affiliates what were their relaunch lists. So already anticipating what they were going to do during the break and after the break, what was their relaunch list and what could we do with the reps, knowing that the regulations are different in every single country. So in some countries you have to go on technical break, on others you keep the people on board, and we have established for everyone across the organization a plan of action before, during, and after the relaunch. Now the real challenge is to keep the empathy and the communication with the people. And what is for me really interesting is that I have not seen anywhere in the pharma, in Europe at least, from what I observed, big announcements that we would let go of the field force. Despite the fact that the access has become very difficult, we have kept on those people, we have built capabilities, and then we have bet that one day after, life will be back to more or less normal, and that those guys will have a fundamental role, probably even a better role than before. So we kept close contact with them.
Thank you, Florent. Very interesting insights. Bartek, would you like to share your vision of the leadership playbook? Because you're quite famous, I would say, especially in this regard of leadership.
Absolutely. Thank you. I hope you can hear me better than you can see me, because my camera is unfortunately not working. But I'll share a little bit of what we have done at Ipsen and what we have found. So I like to start off with stating that, as usual, context is decisive. So it's very difficult to speak about the about how we think about the medical representatives until you actually try to nail the context. And once you understand what is actually happening out there, and understanding some of those mechanisms, in my view, are absolutely critical for us to return and potentially have a value proposition for the HCPs and for the systems. And then, so as we look at, we did at Ipsen a couple of weeks of just listening. We decided to connect with whoever we could on the external world, whether this would be HCPs, payers, providers, and just listened. And what is kind of amazing is that you look at what is happening and you see that there's going to be several shifts that we're already observing. One of them is there's going to be fundamental impact on the patient journey. And depending on, obviously, the specialty area you're in, I think the specialty is more affected than maybe any other. But you look at this today, and we're expecting some shifts. So for sure, there's going to be a shifting away from hospital. There's going to be movement towards another different point of care for the issues that are not acute, or they're not health, or they're not life-threatening. So with that shift, I think we need to support our field force, and whether they're medical field force or they're commercial field force, we need to help them ask the questions and understand what has just happened. Now, to make it more difficult, whatever you do globally today, it's going to be wrong, simply because every country has its slightly different circumstances. But even within the same country, you look at the regions, sometimes at the hospital level, and you see that that patient journey may look very, very different. And then, so, if we want to bring meaningful value to this, we have to understand that, right? And then once you understand, then the question is, well, what kind of tools can you offer? What kind of content can you offer your representatives to be more effective? In the lockdown, we actually did a nice several training refresher courses on problem solving, integrated account management, just to once again bring us back to the basics, which is listening, asking questions, understanding the situation before we start deploy ourselves into the new context. So, you know, from that angle, we're still busy trying to figure out what is going to be the context. I'm not talking much about the tools because that's pretty obvious, right? That's the first question and first answer, that, you know, the remote connection, everything related to enabling those connections is critical. But I continue to believe that the content will be the king. Will we have something interesting to say? Will we be in a position to help solving some problems, whether this is for the HCPs, hospital, nurses, or patients? And I think, you know, I like to say that we should be getting better 1% every day as leaders, but that situation creates an opportunity for us to become much better over a very short period of time, as long as we listen and we see ourselves as a part of the solution.
Thank you, Bartek. Very interesting insight, especially the preparation part to prepare the reps after this whole crisis, because as you said, the tools are known and there is no nuclear science in that regard for sure. Marcos, would you like to continue from a coaching perspective? What do you see as some hidden hints of a proper leadership playbook?
Yeah, sure. I'm fully audible there. That's good. Look, Dario, I think what we've found in our work, particularly around this period, is that there is a real sense of compassion. I think people feel impacted. This is something that no one has, well, many people have never experienced on this scale. And what that has meant is that people have gone back to reconnecting with purpose. And I think that's very powerful. We ran some work with one company, and that was all around helping them to tell the story of why they work for that particular organization and what they want to do to make patients' lives better. And some of that work around storytelling was very powerful because that meant that people were able to create more of a why and a more of an urgency for what they were trying to do for people. And that really opened people up, and I think really grounded them and prepared them well. And they're pretty excited down in this neck of the woods, at least, to be getting back out on the road, somewhat refreshed and energized and driven by that current of connecting with their purpose.
Okay, thank you, Marcos. We received a very interesting contribution content from Alessandro about the role of empathy in this very special and hard time. Alessandro, would you like to share your insights about the research which you found on Bain?
Yes, first of all, I would like to say that the lockdown has been a great opportunity for training to the sales rep. Often we were struggling in the past to have time for training and to have not them in the field. Then we have been forced to find some training to do. We worked on that a lot, and we focused on our global selling model, for example, as one of the most important things for training for our sales team. First of all, just to make sure to do a continuous training on some skills, some competencies that were not executed because they were not in the field, obviously. And second point, also to create some dedicated trainings for the remote interaction with the customers, but specifically during a crisis. For example, just very easy tips on how to use technology properly, and also, for example, on how just not to be intrusive during the communication with the customer. As part of this training, we realized that we were training at the end of the day to better train them to be in the customer's shoes, so to better understanding customers, which is and will be even more in the even more important in the future. Something that can make the difference. The other point you mentioned, Dario, is the importance of coaching. For example, And it's really important, the role of the first line manager, because the commercial arena is going to change a lot, and the role of the first line manager will be crucial for those transformation. And one of the key question marks that we have, I think, I don't have the answer, is how the in-field coaching of the first line manager will change in the future. You know, in-field coaching is by definition in the field, and how this coaching is going to be in the future. So this is something that it's really interesting to me, and it's one of the future challenges that we will have for the future.
Okay, thank you, Alessandro, for the interesting insights. Further, the next question, we all know that already in some countries and continents, reps started to go back to normal. And how actually did you prepare your teams in Asia or across Europe who started HCP visits? Bartek, would you like to start with that question?
Yeah, I think I can absolutely get it going, and then just would be beautiful to hear others. But I think the challenge here, you know, is that you cannot speak about one sort of preparation, if that makes sense, right? The countries went about the crisis differently. They're also going about returning to work differently. Now, what you obviously want to take care of is the well-being, and that's the number one goal. So if you have reps being able to actually leave home and go back to see HCPs, you have to reinforce all of the safety procedures just to give them that confidence that they have everything that they need to have to safely deliver on their jobs. You know, some others, there are some areas and pockets where the reps up until today, even though the lockdown is lifted, they're still not allowed to enter the hospital, right? And I will be speaking mainly from a hospital perspective, because that's what Ipsen is. Ipsen is predominantly specialty care. So on that angle, obviously, you know, the amount of work that we put to reactivate some of the tools, including Viva Engage, just get them going with that and be comfortable, etc. It is quite surprising to me, to be honest, that over the last 2 months, we all became so much more comfortable with those interactions. And interestingly, customers are doing the same thing. They use telemedicine with their patients. You know, it's being reimbursed in multiple different countries. I believe in 1 month in France, we had about 4 million teleconsultations performed. And you know, with the rapid shift of that being actually a way of working, with including reimbursement, etc. And then so getting into that routine, being in contact with HCPs has been absolutely critical. What we also found out is that HCPs, actually, those who were not directly engaged in treating COVID patients, they actually have a little bit more time available for themselves, because the teleconsultation is taking less. I had a pleasure to speak with the medical oncologist here in the UK, who said, you know, that usually the clinic would run about 1 hour behind, pretty much every single day. Now, with the new situation, the clinic is exactly on time. And the reason being is we just lose less time on travel, etc. And then, you know, even the phone calls, if they are phone calls or video calls, they will not be that extended, right? Sometimes they just have to simply be brief. So some of those challenges. Now, the other thing is we're trying to understand as an organization, you know, if the point of care is going to be shifting a little bit from, let's say, hospitals to outpatients, how would that look like moving forward? Who's going to be treating, for example, chemotherapy side effects? Will patients come back to the hospital, or will they be treated at a different point of care? You know, how this is all going to be sorted is absolutely fascinating. And one of the things that we're trying to do with our field forces is just to equip them to dare to ask those questions. You know, we say, stay in the conversation, be relevant, and be part of the solution. I believe that just delivering the messages today in this context, you know, it may not be the greatest strategy to capture anybody's attention in today's world. However, if you try to understand their world and you come with the solutions, or you're actively prompting, probing about them, you're really set up nicely for success. And that link to purpose that was just mentioned then become pretty clear and very strong driving force for us to return.
Thank you, Bartek. Alessandro, would you like to proceed, please?
Yes, in terms of preparation of the sales team, of course, in parallel with the training that I mentioned before, of course, we worked as many of the other companies to set up some tools for the remote interactions, not in all the countries, in some of them. And one of our priority to be prepared for the future was during the lockdown and during this period of remote working, was not to lose the focus on the key important projects that, like CRM, for example, that are really even more important in this specific situation. We all know and we all can understand how advanced CRM are crucial in the what we call the new normal. So we decide not to lose focus there. Maybe stopping some projects to be more focused in some dedicated initiatives, but not lose the focus there. And for example, we managed to deploy CRMs working completely in remote in Iberia, from the UAT to the training to the reps and to the go live. That's one example of how we prepared for the future. But I would say that, as usual, as you already mentioned before, technology is really important, but the most critical part is always on the competencies of the sales team to face the new situation.
Thank you, Alessandro. Florent, would you like to proceed, please?
Yes. So the thing is, we were in a peculiar situation in Grünenthal because we were, when the crisis really hit, we were in the mid of our digital transformation. So somewhere that acted as a catalyst. And for instance, one of the first things we've done was to immediately deploy worldwide remote detailing using Viva Engage. We called Viva, we said we need that live in less than 4 weeks. And the guys say, okay, that's a bet, we can try to do it. And we made it. With building the capability, checking the content, checking the approvals from HCP to be contacted. Train all the people and we have encouraged them. At the same time, for the people who have interactions with HCP, can be reps, can be MSL, we have clearly explained that no group meetings were allowed anymore until the foreseeable future, that all the precaution guidelines were to be applied. If you go, you need to call first, and by calling, you need to check that it's not intrusive, that what's important on the physician agenda, and if you have a value proposition that is significant, and just stay and do remote activity, plan remote activity with the physician. So I would say we prepare them, we train them as well, but we have not given the green light for the people to go massively back into the organizations, into the HCP, the hospitals, and the practices, because we want to make sure that this change in the mindset and change in the way of working is going to last. And to make it last, we need to embed it for a certain time in the daily practice. And we know that it works because, Chile, it has become completely digital for us. And that's a really interesting period where you see the leaders of tomorrow emerge without, anticipating them. Who would have thought that the guys in Chile on the other side of the planet would be the leader of our digital, and that they have replaced one-to-one visits by calls at equivalent level, remote calls. And in the same way, Across Health has just released some data on oncologists. It's really interesting to see that the Italians and Spanish physicians really welcome digital interactions up to 30 or 40% of the activity, while in France and in Germany, they don't. And they don't because they think that the content is not good enough for them, while in Spain, they are super happy with the content. So I think, again, coming back to my point earlier, in a crisis that no one has ever faced, where no one has a North Star or a real, understanding of the situation. Crowdsourcing ideas from everyone that you can gather around you is probably the best way to make best practice emerge. And that's how we are trying to prepare our reps for the day after.
Thank you, Florent. Very interesting insights. Just to ask, is the content the same in France and Spain? You mentioned it completely opposite opinions from B2Bs.
The content.
The content.
So the thing is, so we are kind of a content factory which is centralized, and we went through with procurement, with medical, and with a sales coach to understand what content can be used remotely and what content can we not use remotely. The good thing, again, I'm not making any commercial here, but not having a centralized CRM and a centralized approval system like the Vault is you know exactly what content you can use. For instance, one big challenge we see would be the usage of rogue systems like Teams or others, or even GoToMeeting, where the physician can make a screenshot of something that has not been approved, but will be shown by a sales rep out of goodwill. We don't want that to happen. We want to show only approved content. So the content we have needed some fine tuning, because some stuff were too small or not properly, laid out. But overall, I would say 90–95% of the content we use now remotely is the same as the one we are using face-to-face.
Thank you, Florent. Marcos, how should a modern pharma company prepare their teams after this crisis or during this crisis?
Well, I think what was interesting when COVID-19 hit, we saw two very different reactions from companies that we were engaged with, about to engage with, or had active sales conversations with. And they were one of quiet panic and just let's freeze everything. Let's freeze budgets, let's freeze everything, and let's try and continue what we've been doing in normal situations in this new situation. And I think there were other companies, on the other hand, who went, hang on a minute, this is not normal. We need to adapt what we do. And I think the companies that made the decision to move more aggressively towards being more flexible and practicing and rehearsing and coaching their reps to interact over the telephone, over Zoom calls, and eventually we'll see soon in person, but essentially creating an environment where there's greater flexibility, but one that is still very much supported by the basics of good communication: clarity, simplicity, openness, and undergirded by that sense of purpose, which of course comes out of the rep and the MSL with a great deal of enthusiasm and urgency in the interaction. Those companies have decided to work on those things with their reps to try to encourage them to be more flexible in the way they interacted, even down to the way that they practiced the first sentence or two of opening a phone call. Something as specific and tight as that to engage and to create a hook in the conversation where somebody would immediately go, oh, that's interesting. I think that's worth responding to. Those little aspects of the way that people converse, those crisp little chestnuts of conversation, they're valid no matter where you are. And so practicing those key aspects are enormously important. But I think the key is flexibility, because we see with companies like Twitter and so on, there are a lot of companies now that where working from home will be 50% of my work life. People like this idea of greater flexibility, and that's the way that we need to approach things, because that is, as they say a lot these days, the new normal.
Thank you, Marcos. Let's proceed to the next question, which is going in some way of predicting the things, which is always very hard, of course. But what's your opinion? Will HCPs find with this way of digital remote engagement with pharma companies after this COVID-19 crisis? Before we give the answers, I would just like to share the already mentioned survey from April this year. There we actually see that it's not expected that the face-to-face visit will fully recover after the crisis. So we can start maybe with Alessandro this time. And so Alessandro, how do you see and how do you comment these benefits? Of course, first of all,
yeah. Actually, if the healthcare professionals are fine or not with remote interactions, it will depend on the specific customer, of course. So part of the role of the sales rep will be to understand what are the preferences, even in terms of channel, of that specific healthcare professional. But most of all, I think we have to say that the healthcare professional, as all the other professionals, they will need to cope with more remote interactions. So this is a matter of fact, not only in the interaction with the pharma companies and with the sales rep, but also with the interaction with their patients, for example, or even in peers conversation with other healthcare professionals. Given that there are a lot of opportunity for them. For example, we know that the healthcare professionals are really very busy, and the remote interaction can be an opportunity to optimize the in-between time, for example, but also to have some kind of real-time information. Maybe you have some information on the products, not where we are talking with a rep, but when you are talking with the patient. Maybe having some digital tools to have information. So this is a trend that will be in the future, but the responsibility is more on the side of the pharma company, because the healthcare professional will like this new wave of interaction if the pharma company are able to generate contents and to generate interest in the information that they will share with the healthcare professional.
Thank you, Alessandro. Marcos, how do you see this important topic? Will these digital remote channels remain after this whole crisis?
Well, I think the key thing for me here, having, I know all the other panelists have significant internal experience in healthcare, whereas I'm a bit more of an observer, although a very involved observer for the past 10 years. My view is, and I would be very interested to hear what the other guys have said. Florent has touched on it a bit. I think a genuine commitment to innovation in regards to omni-channel. I've heard a lot of talk about multi-channel marketing, omni-channel, and engaging with digital means for interacting with healthcare professionals. But my view is that the companies that are going to be able to do that in the most innovative fashion and work out how that can dovetail and fit with their in-person rep MSL interactions that they've got running concurrently, it's those organizations that will fill that gap effectively with omni-channel in terms of investing in it properly and executing it well in a consistent and imaginative fashion. These are the organizations I think that you'll really see flourish post-COVID.
Thank you, Marcos. Florent, can you please proceed with your view on the question?
So just, I think, again, quoting the same source, across sales share that the physicians expect to have 20 to 25 less % of face-to-face visits coming from the industry. And 84% of them say they want a digital complement to that. So I think that, yes, there is space for us to reduce the one-to-one interactions, maybe expand the panel, and complement with better other channels. Now, coming to my personal history, I worked in the past in a big English pharmaceutical company together with Bartosz, and I was in Japan in charge of, one therapeutic area. And there we have set up a full omnichannel capability, including own resources, own media, and also paid media with a partnership with M3. And we could prove that the thing is working. So we know that it's working, but exactly as you said, we need a significant commitment to it. So for instance, in Grünenthal in 2021, the marketing team will probably spend, that's the instruction we are giving, on the brands that are the most important, a minimum of 30% of their resources on digital omnichannel activities. Can be webinars, can be approved emails, can be remote calling, can be any kind of form of digital app and stuff like that. That's a significant commitment. When you look at the current spend by brand in the world, how much is spent on the face-to-face and how much is spent on the remote and digital, it's not a 70-30. And we push even the boundaries to say for the brands that are, long life brands, we all in our companies have those products that are there. They are generators in marketing. In the old time, they call that cash flows, right? They are generating profits and revenue, but no one is doing anything for them. We fundamentally believe that if we spend on those brands, we can reactivate them and we can generate incremental revenue. So we're going to try to test and go in those waters as well at the same time. But yes, it needs the full support from your Chief Commercial Officer, the CEO, your CFO, everyone in the company who believe that this new model is possible and that we have the people who can make it a reality.
Thank you, Florent. Once again, interesting insights. Bartek, final verdict about this question?
Yeah, I think I want to think of Ipsen as a company that is on the side of being really excited about what's coming. Okay, so every challenge does come with the opportunity, right? We know that. So initially, after initial shock of okay, we absolutely have to adapt. We don't know how this is going to look like. I think we started to view those changes not as a recovery, but potentially as a renaissance. I like it much more because when you put yourself in this context, I think you're discovering new possibilities. Now, whether they will persist or not, we don't know today. We only have beliefs and gut feel. My gut feel is that this disruption happened to the entire world, and I think there's going to be more of digital everywhere, and there will be some behaviors that will stay. I genuinely believe also that systems, as I engage in conversations here in the UK with NHS representatives, what they're saying is that they are uncovering massive inefficiencies in the system, which they didn't dare to correct over the last many years. But now suddenly they were forced to do things differently, and potentially some of that might stay. So I'm not saying that there's going to be only telemedicine, but I wouldn't be surprised if there will be a mixture, especially for chronic diseases, that some of the visits might be face-to-face, some of the patient's visit may be remote. That is going to drive efficiency. But if this is going to be the case, obviously our customers will be much more inclined to contacting us also in a mixed way. So personally, I believe we will still be doing business face-to-face. That's what, we're humanity. We are made for working together. But at the same time, there are opportunities for us to create a nice blend.
Bartek, we lost you. Would you kindly please repeat the last sentence?
Okay, sorry. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Bartek?
Okay, so I'll say it again, Dario. It might be your connection, but I was just saying that we will most likely be in the mix of things. Well, face-to-face and digital, and we're very curious and look forward to that.
Okay, thank you. So you are optimist of this mixture between face-to-face and remote, especially depending on the therapeutic group. I fully agree with that. I also see the change will definitely in that direction. And last but not least question, what will change in the commercial model on short and of course on long term? Maybe we can start this time with Florent because we started with him first. Florent, What do you think, in your opinion, will change in the commercial model or short?
And with this panel, we have only 20 minutes to answer that question. That's a tough one, right? No, so just rapidly. I think many things are going to change. We are going to get far specialized. In a sense, I think pharma is going to split into two parts. We will have the highly specialized type of, key account management, or really dedicated on expensive products that we can have in oncology, with what I would call haute couture pharma commercial, where we need absolutely to cater for the needs of a specific population, be really focused on them, be really, listening to the physician, trying to understand. We need highly skilled field teams, who can understand the science and the disease and have an educated and intelligent conversation with the physician. Otherwise, they are irrelevant, and if they are irrelevant, then he won't receive them. So you will have this part, and you will have on the other side something that is going to be more on the side of what I was calling the long life brand, which is, a more commercial activity with, a mix of people who will be more commercial managers, managing a portfolio of products across territories, and doing tenders and accounts and things like that. What will unite them all is the digital back office that we need to create. It's very clear from the physicians that they don't mind coming to our resource center as long as they can trust the resource we give them, as long as they know and they recognize this is not commercially biased, that when we are setting, e-learning or CME and things like that, it's not to push a product, but really to improve the physician. And I think that's a little bit that, revolution we need to make in our mind, in our commercial mind, which is to believe in our product and believe in our people. If we have a good product and if we have good people, there is no reason a physician will not use it for the right patient. Therefore, there's no need for sophisticated marketing tricks. And I think that's what's going to go away. That race for the smartest message and that race for the biggest share of voice is probably now definitely behind us. I think COVID has closed the door to that model.
Thank you, Florent. So normal commercial is getting in marriage with digital, right? Okay, Bartek, would you kindly like to proceed?
I think the short answer is yes, right? I am not sure whether this is going to be revolution or evolution. Maybe it will be a little bit accelerated evolution of the model, right? Let's not forget, everything that exists today, we invented. We invented functions, we labeled them in a certain way. There is a rep, MSL, etc. We did ask ourselves questions. Is that invention is it still going to be valid for the years to come? Would we think more of a single point of contact, someone who would be able to support HCPs more broadly? But these are big questions. I'm with Florent. I believe that in the short to midterm, what we're doing is we're trying to accelerate our digital transformation. I spoke about the content. I continue to believe that for that to work, the content has to be top-notch. It simply has to be interesting and meaningful. I had a couple of conversations recently with oncologists who I asked them the question about ASCO. You probably all know that ASCO is going digital this year. And many of them told me that it is going to be impossible for them to sit and watch every single presentation. What is going to happen most likely is they will come at the end of each day for the summary of the new data, and they will try to get it in a concise and encapsulated manner, right? Potentially they may join some of the symposia or presentations that they're more likely to be interested in because that's their specialty. Same thing for us. I think there is, in the face-to-face, there's obviously an interaction that is enriching that situation. With digital, you really have to bet on meaningful content, and that's what I have been focused recently with my team. Is we after our listening session, after mapping all the patient journeys, we're trying to develop the content that may be immediately helpful to patients, HCPs, nurses, or even other providers, right? So I think there's really exciting time is coming, and I wish I have all the answers, but it's going to be really cool because we have an opportunity to reinvent ourselves.
Some see this as opportunity, some see it as threat, like every time. Okay, Marcus, how you see will the commercial model change short and long term?
Well, I think it's been interesting to watch healthcare businesses over the last few months really come together, especially in relation to research and development for a vaccine to treat the pandemic. And there's been a real sense of collegiality, I think, and that has kind of washed into governments and hospital systems and things like that. That's been, I think, very exciting. So I believe there is a really fantastic opportunity. I like the reference to Renaissance there, because I believe that you know, some of that negativity that surrounded drug reps and selling and what have you, you know, I believe that there's a opportunity to reposition and to reset and to go back out with a really strong sense of purpose and belief, and to engage with healthcare professionals with a really solid footing in that genuine commitment to the patient's well-being. And I think that's what's going to make the difference. That, and as mentioned before, a genuine, sustained, fully budgeted approach to omni-channel, and a commitment to that, so that creates a proper, sustained, imaginative touch point for healthcare professionals to complement the ongoing in-person peer-to-peer interactions.
Thank you, Marcos. Alessandro?
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, considering what is going to change, probably in terms of what is going to change, nothing change compared to the trends that were already in place. So the trends of more digital communication with healthcare professional, the trend of a more customer-centric approach in the communication with physician and with healthcare professional in general were already there. And what is changing a lot is the speed. We had a transformation in our industry, I think, in 1 year. That was something that we could have expected for 5 years. So for the companies, one key word for success will be the speed, to be able to face this new situation, as usual, with a mix of focus on technology and competencies for the sales force. I remember last year during the meeting in the Next Pharma Summit in Dubrovnik, we were talking a lot about digital transformation, but with the idea that the face-to-face channel would have been the first communication channel for at least 5 years in our industry. So the big news is now it's time to speed up and to face to a reality that we wouldn't have expected to face. But again, all the trends were already in there.
Thank you, Alessandro. In meantime, we asked one of our pools with the question, will you implement some new coaching standards to prepare reps for the field? I will close the pool and share the results now, which is 86% they are going to plan to implement some new coaching standards, 3% no, and 10% still won't follow. How you comment, gentlemen, these results? Who would like to start first?
I have an idea.
I mean, you know, and that's right. And I think the reps are going to be far more than a marketing message repeating machine in the future. Whatever function they work in, primary care or specialty care, and therefore we need them to become, extended reps. With they need to become e-reps with the capability to manage smartly their approved emails, the digital content at their disposal, tools like webinars, and fly around. And we need to teach them, because unless we hire our own kids, the reps are not digitally native, and therefore they don't know how to do that. So yes, I totally agree with that. We need to train, we need to coach, because they also have skills that are absolutely critical for the business success in the future.
Thank you, Florent. Anybody else who would like to comment these pooling answers?
Got a thought, Dario?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I wasn't aware that I was on then. Yeah, look, I do have a thought, and that's specifically in relation to frontline managers and the role that they play as coaches. Having engaged with a lot of companies in a lot of different countries over the past 10 years, I've seen very often the leading salesperson be promoted to sales manager, and the skill of a very good salesperson does not necessarily translate into being a good sales manager, let alone a good coach of other people. And so my wish is that not only will reps be coached in an ongoing and imaginative and engaging fashion, stimulating fashion, but that coaches, that sales managers who have to then do the coaching in an ongoing way and create that accountability and that follow-up and that program that sees results and sees measurable improvement out of their teams. That's what I'd like to see, a commitment towards a real love of coaching and a real development of skills in frontline managers to be able to deliver that coaching.
Thank you, Marcos. Bartek, would you like to comment this pooling question?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, look, I think the leadership is normally required in all the times, but when you're going through massive ambiguity like this one, and you have a chance to set the right mindset for the teams to see opportunities in this is going to be so much more critical, right? So of course, I think we all have to adapt to the situation at all levels of leadership, in terms of coaching, support, empathy. We just have to learn how to work in that new situation. So yes, I don't think we had a proper structured conversation about how the new coaching would look like, but from the last several weeks, it is pretty clear that leaders have been doing it differently versus before, simply because of the situation, of the context. So like I said, I think this is opportunity to step up.
Bartek?
Yeah, I'm done. I was just saying this is the opportunity to step up our leadership.
Alessandro, would you like to comment?
From my side, first of all, the result of the pool is not a surprise, of course, but the second point, we all already mentioned the importance of the role of the manager and the leadership program, but I would say that we have seen how effective is also the remote and digital training for the sales rep. So if in the future we will need a lot of training for our sales team, this is a level that we should use, I think, to better face the new challenges.
Thank you. And last question which we asked, which is what do you see as biggest medical rep concern after COVID-19, motivation, mental health, change of working routine, or other? We see that close to 90% change of working routine. And actually, how's that possible? Do you think that this is the only concern, or what do you personally see as the biggest concern of the medical rep after this whole crisis? Who would like to start first, gentlemen?
Yeah, maybe I can start first this time. I think the change of the working routine, I think it's a fact, is a matter of fact. The challenge for the pharma company is not to make this change frustrating, to avoid to turn in the motivation as usual, and the change of the work routine can be even an opportunity. Example, we know the long queue sometimes to speak with a specific healthcare professional that can be maybe avoided or reduced a lot in the future, just to make an example. That's what I think after this result.
Thank you, Alessandro. Anybody else who would like to comment these results? I mean, I would say only 7% motivation. How's that possible?
Like, people enjoy being at home, you know, so some just don't want to go back to work. No, more seriously, I think in the contacts I had, there are two other topics that are coming top of mind, which are maybe more short term, which are what's happening to my bonus, so my incentive scheme and stuff like that. You know, how is it going to be impacted by COVID? Because we are all affected on our sales, we are all affected on activity plans. So literally all the indicators that usually are used to calculate incentive plans and stuff like that. So I think the companies need to bring rapidly and forcefully a clear answer to that. And the second question, which is more middle term, is okay, but you know, what's the future of my job? It's not so much on the daily working routine, is, you know, do you think I've got what it takes to be the guy that will, you know, be there in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years? And I think that's where we have in front of us some discussions, some challenges, some coaching, some training that is required to embark on that journey with them, but also some motivation and teamwork.
Thank you, Florent. Bartek?
Yeah, I think I could say that. I just don't want to repeat what has been said. I think people might be simply concerned, will they have a job? Right, because if you read some of the statistics, Dario, you showed them, I saw some others as well, that, you know, the HCPs, they anticipate a significant reduction in contacts overall. And then from within that, there is a shift to digital. Whether this is going to sustain like that, we don't know. But I think some representatives might be simply worried about, you know, will this job exist? And if this is going to transform to Florent's point, will I be able to live up to it?
Thank you, Bartek. Marcus?
Yes, look, I think the key thing here, and one change that I've noticed over the 10 years that I've been engaging with healthcare businesses, is a shift from the call rate being the be all and end all to call quality. And I believe that if there's just a never-ending focus on the quality of the interaction and how we can make it meaningful and informative and compassionate and engaging and stimulating, then we'll be on the right track.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you all. I think it was really great panel today. We recorded that, so it will be also published on our YouTube channel for everybody who had a chance to listen to this live recording. Thank you very much, gentlemen, once again. Just a kind recommendation. Also that tomorrow we are having another webinar for additional digital virtual topic, which is building virtual digital communities for rare diseases. Once again, very remarkable lineup. Please feel free to register, and thank you very much so far. Wish a nice rest of the day. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dario.
Thank you.